Standing in the midst of the nation's capital's greatest architecture and monuments is the old Greyhound Bus Station building on 1100 New York Avenue in Northwest Washington. It's not only a tribute to DC's Art Deco architecture and intriguing transportation history, but also a testament to the preservationists who saved it from destruction and its owners who allowed it to remain intact. But its greatest legacy remains secret to almost everyone. The Greyhound bus that left this station some 20 years after it was built became an international symbol of America's racism and violence against African Americans during the Freedom Rides. Built in the late 30s, this new station opened to great acclaim in March 1940 with over 25,000 visitors filing in, awestruck by the design. A swing band played, and people danced wherever they could find room. This $1 million, fully air-conditioned new bus station impressed everyone and provided luxurious accommodations as they waited for their travel.
I think from the Art Deco Society's point of view, it was a wonderful example of Art Deco architecture in Washington. But also it was important in the history of bus transportation. And because we learned that it was the flagship and that Greyhound spent a lot of money and time designing it, to perfection. And they wanted to promote the idea that bus travel was glamorous and convenient, and just as good as the railroad, if not better.
"20 years after its opening, the Greyhound station was still thriving. On May 4, 1961, 6 Freedom Riders left Greyhound Super Terminal to test the Supreme Court ruling in Boynton versus Virginia, which prohibited segregation in interstate buses, bus terminals, cafeterias, and restrooms.
This was the first time that you had an open clash of civil disobedience that was both participatory, broad-based, multiracial, and what the Freedom Rides began was an understanding that civil disobedience was open to anyone who was willing to take the risk. That it was right, it was legitimate, it was an antagonistic, active strategy that was not a passive acceptance of terror and of apartheid, but at the same time, it created an aura of protection because it is so much harder to explain shooting people who are nonviolent than shooting people who are violent.
The doors were locked. They had broken out all the windows, so they couldn't get to us. They couldn't get at us. And the bus was set afire, and I had a decision to make. And I'm pretty sure, like the other people on that bus, how am I going to die? I don't know what they were thinking about, but I just knew I was going to die. And the question was, do I get off the bus and get beaten to death, stomped, kicked, and beaten to death, which would be a horrible way to die, stay on the bus, get burned to death, which is a horrible way to die, or I thought that if I breathe in the smoke, which probably is poisonous, it will kill me quickly. That was the decision I made at age 19. Well, when you get smoke in your lungs, regardless of what else you were thinking, the body natural reflexes take over and you are fighting to get out and to get air. I got to the front of the bus, to the door, and I tried to push it open. I couldn't. The people outside made sure that we would not be able to get out, and they held the door. And I could hear them saying, let's burn them niggas alive. Let's burn these niggas. And at that particular moment, it seems, and I've just resigned myself that this is it. God, please let this smoke kill me quickly. The bus exploded. The fuel tank of the bus exploded. And when that happened, the people who were holding the door let go of it because they were running for cover as well. And that's how we got out of that bus.
We arrived in Montgomery. It was so eerie. It was so quiet, so peaceful. I traveled through that Greyhound Bus Station so many times, and I'd never seen it like this before. The very moment that we started down those steps off that bus, an angry mob just came out of nowhere. Men, women, children, lead pipes, chains, bricks, rocks, anything they could use to hit us or turn into a weapon. And they didn't attack us first. They attacked the media. If you had a pencil and a pad, if you had a camera, you were in real trouble. They beat members of the media, and we saw people just laying down all over the place, bloody. They were destroying their pads, destroying the cameras. And then they turned on us. They hit me in the head with a wooden crate and left me bloody. Later, I lost consciousness.
William S. Pritchard, a leading attorney in Birmingham.
Substantially all of the Negroes in Alabama, and perhaps in the South, Deep South, have the same background. They were all savages in Africa. Their parents sold them into slavery, or their chieftains sold them into slavery. I have no doubt that the Negro basically knows that the best friend he's ever had in the world is a Southern white man. He'd do the most for him, always has, and will continue to do it.
Back of the bus thing was a continual reminder that as a class of people, we were inferior to the superior and supervening group of white people who ran things. If you came to some states, you could leave the district anywhere, sitting anywhere you wanted, but when you reached Virginia, you had to move to the back of the bus. That was an application of state policy based solely on the assumption of the inferiority of blacks and the superiority of whites.
As we approached Jackson, Mississippi, I'm a guesser about maybe 5-10 minutes before we got into Jackson, someone evidently had a radio and turned the volume up with the radio enough for us to hear it. And you heard this voice coming across the radio saying there's some more freedom riders, some more Negroes and Negro lovers coming into Jackson. And the comment was, they don't know what they're getting into coming into Jackson. And I think that was the first moment when I really felt a sense of fear.
By the end of the summer of 1961, over 400 black, white, and Jewish students and adults were arrested. Some served 3 months in maximum security in Parchman State Farm in Mississippi.
They took us down a highway through the Delta of Mississippi. This was my first trip to Mississippi. It was so eerie, it was so strange. I remember, and I kept thinking what happened to Emmett Till. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know where we were on our way to. They take us to what they call the Maximum Security Unit, where they kept the most dangerous prisoners, where they kept people on death row. We get to Parchman, we enter through a barbed wire fence, and they have, I guess, ducks or geese, I don't know, out there to make noise if somebody move around, I guess. And this man come up to the truck and says something like, "Sing your goddamn freedom songs now. We have niggers here that will beat you, eat you. Sing your goddamn freedom songs now."
Segregation, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy, turn me round and keep on walking, yeah, keep on talking, yeah, marching up to freedom, yeah.